Hi everybody. I'm out here working on cleaning a replacement vehicle that we found, and working with the chemicals and all the different stuff made me think, you know, we've got a ton of new people here. Why don't we talk a little bit about what is hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, what are joint hypermobility spectrum disorders, why do I look like I haven't slept in days even though I've been sleeping great, and what does that mean for you? What are you doing? You're exploring this diagnosis, trying to figure out what it is. What do we do? All right, a couple basic facts. And these are, I'll specify as we go. There's fact in the sense that science took an interest in it and enough of an interest to establish it as fact based on empirical data. Then there's fact as in the majority of patients experience this in this way, and it's very precise, and science would find that if they ever bothered to notice and care. And then there's fact as in these are what the clinicians are treating who have over a decade of experience treating and working with our bodies, and it will eventually be established as fact. Okay, fact number one. This is not just a connective tissue disorder. Hypermobility is one of the features, and yes, you may be a little bit more bendy in some joints. You also might be stiff. You might have dystonia. Search the group for dystonia. I have a video on that. It's where dopamine doesn't transport, or you don't have enough of it, to the muscles and multiple and different tissues internally and externally. It affects the GI tract too. Hey, motility disorder people. Dystonia causes dopamine transportation issues that affect the body from head to toe. It makes you more stiff. Number two, this is something you're born with. There are some avenues that are looking like this might be kind of an acquired condition. For some people, there are some variations in expression that where it can kind of be developed. Like you start to see a bit more connective tissue. I'm going to randomly swap mosquitoes as we go here. There might be more connective tissue symptoms that start to develop via autoimmune disorders and immune dysregulation, which brings us to fact number three. It has finally been proven that Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, and hypermobility spectrum disorders, and the things that all those lovely things share, the killiecrenin gene is one of them that might be expressed, or just integrin switching, and the bonding with the extracellular matrix pieces, fibronectin development pieces with the work, and that in the two conditions together, guess what? You fundamentally have immune dysregulation. Just published, released at the International Scientific Symposium, presented, awesome, wonderful. In addition, prior to developing loose joints, you have a fundamental immune dysregulation that is affecting your whole body and will probably show up as a mast cell disorder at some point. And if it never does, treat it like it does, because your immune system is more sensitive than other people's. And the more you expose it to triggers and environmental things, the worse it gets. I'll circle back to that one. Okay, what am I on? 1, 2, 3. Not just a connective tissue disorder, prior to connective tissue disorder, immune disorder. 4, this affects multi-systems. It has to do a lot with expression, not genetic expression per se, but the results of how the genes are expressed. You're born, you're more sensitive to the world. That might include neurodivergence, like me. I'm very, 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 very proudly autistic. I completely understand nonverbal communication and the desire to not communicate with the world, and the experience of not being able to communicate with the world. And you have various degrees of this. The brain experiences inflammation and rewires in some really incredible ways, which brings us to fact number 5. I'll bring fact number 5. Your body is incredibly adaptable. All the stuff that this condition throws at it, it tries to adapt. It tries to adapt too hard, and that leads to more problems. There's the 5 basic facts. So you're exploring this condition. You're like, oh gosh, I've maybe got some hypermobility. Oh, my skin's a little stretchy. Or you started looking at hypermobility and looked at pictures of skin and went, it's not that stretchy. Stretchy is really relative. It is soft, easily bruised, can look tired. I like to read. I use my eyes a lot, and so my eyes kind of perpetually look bruised no matter what I do because I use them. And the muscles around the eyes pull on the skin, and so they look like this no matter how much sleep I get. Maybe a little bit better if I get more sleep. We'll see. That's a work in progress. So if we put all these different things together, what you have with hypermobile spectrum disorders, which is what they've been called, maybe that name will change, is you have a hypersensitive immune system that doesn't like a lot of things in the natural world. It doesn't like them. It just is better at coping with them earlier on in life. So you might not feel like you have a mast cell condition or recognize some of the major typical symptoms of mastocytosis or mast cell activation until much later. Doesn't mean it's not there. This is progressive. These things develop. You're born here and then exposed to an environment that takes you to another direction. And fortunately, what we know, because of the effect on connective tissue and the immune system, which impacts everything else, your autonomic nervous system, your other parts of your nervous system, endocrine systems, all those different things. There are some pretty stereotypical pathways that inflammation tends to go. We're not talking like inflammation like functional medicine, but maybe they've been onto something. We're talking your body has increased friction in your joints. It's why you're in pain. It's why they swell. There shouldn't be friction. They should be floating. They should be smooth. They don't. Why? Why is there friction in your joints? Well, because you didn't get to develop movement the way most of the rest of the world did. You don't have friction in your joints because they're loose. A lot of people have hypermobile joints that don't experience the level of friction and irritation ours do. They're not just loose. They don't know how to move. There is genetic expression and then there is developmental logic, okay? As your body develops with your connective tissues not communicating because they have not, I repeat, they have not found, except in the filum terminale of the spinal cord, actual collagen errors. When they take a piece of your collagen, they look at it under a microscope, it looks fine. They have found issues with fibronectin, which is developmental, and the collagen is dysfunctional in the filum terminale of most people with tethered cord, and that's probably most of us. It just expresses itself more severely in some than others because of your life experiences and your exposure to the elements. So what you have is a combination of a genetic disorder with a massive amount of input from development, from your life, trauma, injuries, or the lack thereof, that impact the body over time, that make things over time get more severe or more stable, depending on how you look at it and depending on the different exposure elements that you might not have been able to control, okay? But your body's hypersensitive. It gets introduced to this world, it gets exposed to things, and it starts to react to those things. Here's a great example of that. Scar tissue. You get cut. What is cut through includes fascia. And the fascia transmits signals in and out of the nervous system, in and out of the central nervous system, about 10 times or more faster. Sometimes it's estimated up to 30 times faster in fascia transportation, in communication and signals. Your fascia moves before you even know that you've thought about moving in order to adjust, to adapt. That system is essential to how you develop movement in the first place. And if that system has dysfunction in it, it doesn't teach you to move right. Right is relative to each body because you're structurally unique compared to the person next to you with the same condition. You might have an odd bone structure that's a little bit different, like a shoulder bone in my right shoulder. This shoulder, the acetamin is a little bit hooked, and so I'm more likely to develop bursitis on this shoulder if I do lots of outward movements. But if I keep it in and more spiraled and focus on how I bear weight here, I don't have any problems. The arthritis went away. Gone. Because I taught it how to move better based on the anatomical structure of that shoulder. This shoulder, not so much of a problem. everybody has such unique bodies. It's part of what makes this complicated. It's not you. It's not always your doctors. That's a different video. But your body's different. How your bones develop in the left hip, the right shoulder, the left shoulder, that's going to impact what your body needs. And everyone else's body gets signals from the fascia as you're crawling, as you're rolling, as you're shifting around as an infant, that tell it what to do and where to go, and how to move the most ergonomic way with the least amount of friction. So if you have a disruption in that system, it messes with you head to toe. Your jaw, your eyes, tiny, tiny muscle issues, let alone the big ones that we deal with. And so it increases friction in the joints, which can develop into different kinds of arthritis, but at least chronic pain through the joints. But that is not what this condition is. That is a symptom of this condition. They're still figuring out the details. It seems to have to do with a hypersensitivity at the molecular level of our biology. You're more sensitive. If that happens to relate to how you think and feel about the world as well, and neurodivergence, go for it. It fits. But being more sensitive to the world doesn't mean it can't learn how to live with it. Your mast cells react. You don't have to just restrict. You can train them to be more stable. There's medications that can help stabilize them, supplements that can help stabilize them, lifestyle changes that help stabilize them. There's some restriction here and there, but ultimately the body can learn. It can actually adapt quite well. And even in the midst of some very significant structural problems, which I've personally had to deal with, vascular compressions, tethered cord, there are some pieces of this that that happen somewhere between the genetic expression and the course of development that do have to be dealt with in some cases, in a lot of cases, in order to get progress, in order to be able to get stable. But most of our medicine, most of the techniques that are used to try to approach this kind of health issue are like jackhammers. They're not nuanced, they're not granular. And when you have a hypersensitive system, you need to understand that that goes into some of the most basic functions of your body, like producing enzymes for metabolizing specific things. The immune dysregulation that they've found has to do with the behavior of the proteins in our body. This is the biochemistry that most of us didn't get to because the migraines wiped us out before we got to pre-med, or that section of high school because something flared, we got a viral infection and we missed most of the molecular biology intro. Regardless, your body is this actually really, really amazing thing. And when you have that cut, when you have that interruption in the fascia, big loop, I just made a big loop. Follow me back here. When you have that interruption of the cut in the fascia pulls itself together. And even though it's supposed to be able to shift and be more flexed and more fluid, the slice in between it interrupts that movement. But as the tissues begin to heal and intertwine and weave themselves back together, the fascia still tries to do what it's supposed to do, which is to transmit a more fluid movement, which ends up pulling on that incision area, which thickens the scar tissue that develops in that area. And we're more prone to that as well. The scar tissue can get really thick. It's almost like our fascia is just trying too hard. And so many issues that we deal with this condition are our bodies just trying too hard. Our mast cells are trying too hard to protect us, so they go off when they shouldn't. Autonomic dysfunction, dysautonomia, which can affect your heart rate, blood pressure, and GI tract. It's like just trying too hard. It's trying to compensate. And again, we could relate this back to our mental health and our personalities. Raise your hand if you try too hard at things. But how do I know that? To me, it's not too hard. It's just normal. Yeah, so don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up so much and criticize yourself. This is in your DNA. It's a part and a piece of everything. And so many of these conditions and so many of these different pieces really do make sense when you think about them as being developmental and progressive as well as genetic. It's not something where you get this thing ruled out and then it's ruled out forever. So a lot of those things could develop if other things aren't dealt with. And that's scary. That creates a lot of, as sun's coming in my eyes, that creates a lot of unknowns. But what we're doing our best to do is educate people. You don't need to have a deep knowledge of all of the diseases you could develop. You do need to have a knowledge of your own anatomy and what happens when different pieces of the anatomy are struggling. Learn your body. Learn its sensitivities, learn what you're going through. Many of the symptoms we have, like joint dysfunction, your physical therapists really can't deal with that most of the time. You need movement intelligence, not physical therapy. You have migraines, you have headaches, metabolizing different medications becomes a problem. Stick with low doses. Go slow. Go very simple. Respect the fact that your body reacts faster than other people's to things, that it's going to communicate with you much faster. But what a great skill. Not just a skill, what a great gift. Your body communicates with you faster than most people do. You might hear that, like autism spectrum, we have an issue with interoception. It's a problem. We don't identify things that our bodies communicate to us. No, we do. We do very much so, but we identify and feel much more than most people. And so it takes a little bit more knowledge, a little more data, and a little more experience to sort out how to interpret it and how to feel it. You can learn yourself and trust yourself. Please trust yourself, because what you're experiencing and how you're figuring out what you're experiencing is probably right. I mean, maybe I haven't been doing advocacy that long, but in working with clients for the past 5 years and the reading and looking at so many different groups all over the country, all over the world, and watching how patients are experiencing it, there's this holdup where they don't learn about themselves. They expect the doctor to tell them about themselves. And it's this emotional roller coaster, up and down, of what this doctor said and what that doctor said. Don't get into that. Don't do that. We have to deal with whatever medical system that we're in, but you'll navigate it better, you'll learn it better, you'll function in it better if you know you and you trust you. Your conclusions that you come to might not be entirely correct because you're lacking the data of a medical degree. Don't worry, you'll get there. Plug in more data. Be open to more data. You might find in the random confluence of your symptoms and circumstances that you actually were right. You didn't have the words yet to say what you'd figured out, but you're probably right. So for all the people who are here, who are new, who are suspecting this, you might not be super bendy, you might be a little stiff, but experiencing lots of injuries and lots of problems and multi-systemic issues. You might have been told that you don't have POTS or you don't have a mast cell condition, but guess what? Your immune system dysregulation expresses itself in exactly those two directions. And helping your body function better, like a little salt to increase blood flow, and like quercetin and low histamine shifts, or a little bit of gluten-free for a little while, things that will help your body have less inflammation, will give you more spoons, what we call them. This is the lupus spoon theory. If you go YouTube spoon theory lupus, you'll find the video. It'll give you a little bit more spoons to solve and figure out more things as you go. Sometimes in this condition we need a big major medical intervention, but most of the time, underneath even the big major medical interventions, what's actually needed is these small little nudges, these small little pieces of stability that you can do yourself. Your fingers hurt, your hands hurt, ring splints, Silver Ring Splint Company, or really cheap cotton arthritis gloves. Look up Viva is a good brand. There's other brands. Just look up like cotton compression gloves for your hands. Get sleeves for your elbows. Work on sun exposure and UV rays. This used to make me sick. I couldn't be in direct sunlight for more than a few minutes without spiking a fever. Okay. There are there are scary things you might have to deal with. But most of those, I hope, logically, looking at the facts of clinician experience, the way the research is pointing and predicting, and the patient experience, most of these things are preventable, and if not entirely preventable, at the very least majorly preventable, in that they will not develop for years and years and years with the right approach. And you'll only experience the symptoms in mild, reasonable forms. That's what we're looking for. Stability isn't the absence of symptoms, it's knowing what to do when they come up, and we want to reduce how much they're coming up. We want to reduce how frequently that's happening. There are some people that have overlapping genetic conditions and expression and have been through a lot in life that are making them truly, truly miserable, because their bodies tried as hard as they could to cope with all of those insults, is one of the medical terms, to like the insulting the body, this injury. And it's difficult. It's sad, it's difficult, and they deserve all the support that we can give them, because we can understand. There are some things that happen to the body that line up with other genetic things that make for very, very truly difficult cases. Most of the time, I think over time, as we stop taking jackhammers and sledgehammers to treatment and start appreciating and valuing the little steps that take time but work, that take time but stabilize the body and give it a better environment to live in, we'll see fewer and fewer of those cases. But we're still going to see some, and they deserve support and appreciation, they deserve respect, and so do you. You probably haven't really given yourself enough credit for all the different things you're going through. So if you go to my website, rachelleepac.com, and just peruse in general some of the multi-system pages, chances are most of you are experiencing some degree of some of all of that. Maybe I haven't named all the symptoms in enough detail where you're like, oh yeah, that's me, yet. But it always happens. I have yet to sit down with someone in 5 years of seeing all kinds of people from all walks of life and all degrees of diagnosis, and not find that when you're asked the questions from someone who's lived it and looked at it from various perspectives, that it's not something you're experiencing. Some people are experiencing it to a lesser degree than others, thank goodness. That's a gift. But the language around these things shouldn't hold you back. And you don't need a diagnosis to get help, to do things for yourself, for your kids, and to change the elements of your life. Some key things: compression gloves, salt tablets, limiting your exposure to different kinds of chemicals, maybe reducing sunlight. Just when I started this journey, and I'll end with this because it's been a long intro video. I never do these short. When I started this, it felt like the misdiagnosis. I was misdiagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and that's like a lifelong, they don't know how to reverse that. It's gone and done. And so you get introduced to EDS and this hypermobility spectrum, and you're like, that's it, I'm a goner. It's done. I'll never have anything else. This is my life. It's just gonna get worse from here. No. No, for most people, that is not true. It is not true. Not only can many of these things be stabilized and in some cases reversed, they can be permanently corrected with the right treatment, with careful approaches, with patience and kindness to your body. It's possible. So I'll leave you guys with that. This is EDS. It's called a connective tissue disorder. It affects multi-systems in your body. It's related to how your cells bond to the extracellular matrix and a struggle to that, but you also have a fundamental immune dysregulation that it can express itself along a few different genetic pathways, and inside the EDS box, those are more predictable. There's certain directions that inflammation will take you. You can reduce inflammation. You can reduce the inflammation of your joints without major medical and medicinal input. You can. But if you need it, hey, no judgment. Just don't only do that. You know, go teach your joints how to move better. Movement intelligence, Alexander technique, Feldenkrais, Bones for Life. And there's more. There's more that can work. Find osteopathic care, orthobionomy, census. There are things for you that can help with that. There are things that can help with your digestion, with your GI tract, with your muscles, with your bones. It's you. And that can be the negative, devastating part of life, or you can use that hypersensitivity to help you figure out and trust yourself and get things done even faster. No one understands the exhaustion and the depression of managing all that with the rest of life. Believe me, get help. Get people to body double with you. Get people to help you make all those phone calls. Stop expecting so much of yourself all the time. And I don't say that lightly, because it's subconscious. We don't consciously go, I will now expect more of myself today. We don't. So you have to build communication. You have to build relationships that naturally ease the burden on your life. There's no other way. You have to change your environment. Ironic. Hypersensitive body struggling with environment. Change your environment. It works in your mental health as well as your body. Okay? All right. I'll leave that there. Please comment, please share, check out the stuff at rachelepAC.com. Go Google keywords. If you've heard something that I've mentioned and shared in the group, let us know if you want more information, if I need to share more details on any of these. So many of them are in depth. There's so much to share and so many overlaps. Mast cell, GI, KUPS truck. So don't hold back, but also rest. Make sure you take breaks. Make sure you chill out every once in a while, because you're doing a lot and we appreciate you and everything you're doing, everything that you're giving, all the time that you fight back, even in the most miserable appointments. You are making a difference. You are.